Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of the Riflechair channel. So I've got a whole bunch of knives here in front of me here, and I just wanted to go over some of them here just for your interest as to why I have them and what I use them for. Now, I'm not a knife guy. No, Nothing Fancy does lots of knife reviews. Lots of guys out there do knife reviews. I'm not one of those guys. I use them, I have them, and so be it. Here's the very first knife that I ever owned. This was a gift to me from my dad, and I love it. I mean, it's been well used. He engraved my name in it. You can see this rust. This has been carried and packed for a long time. 3 basic blades, and I keep them very sharp. You could shave the hair off the back of your hand with this blade. I think he gave this to me when I was like 8. And yeah, back in the day, maybe kids were smarter than they are today, because I never cut myself with this thing, because he showed me how to use it responsibly. You know, it fits nicely in your pocket. I mean, all the way through high school, I think I had this in my pocket. There's never any problems. I guess kids are dumber today because they're not responsible. This here is a great knife. This is a Swiss Army knife. This is kind of a no-name knife, but it's very close to my heart because, my dad gave it to me. Right? What a great knife. This is a Swiss Army knife. Lots of people have these. There's nothing particularly unique about them, but they're just an incredible tool. You could save a life with this thing. I mean, there was a lady in the subway in Montreal, Canada, a few years back, who died because she got her hair cut in the escalator going down into the subway, and she basically had her neck was snapped because of the escalator. She had nothing to cut her own hair off, so she wouldn't. This is what has saved her life. Not to mention, really makes it easier to crack open a beer if it's a bottle. And of course, you got to keep your fingernails trailed. Right? You stick it on the end of your keys. This one here is something that kind of stays by the bedside. This is a bayonet, and it's fairly mild grade steel. I can stick this on the end of my AR-15 or the end of my Mossberg Model 590 SP. It's a bayonet, and it's kind of a home defense tool. That's the way I kind of look at it. Plus, it's got some pretty cool features. Blades on both sides. Here, if you needed to hammer on top of the blade to this effect to chop wood, you could do that if you needed to. And it's fast and easy to acquire and bring to the fight if it's ever needed. This is an old one. This is an American one, USM 8A1 TWB marked bayonet. I love it. Serious cool factor. This one here is is a knife I got from Corwin Arms. It's mild grade steel. It's very thick blade. I think it's generally designed to be able to take a licking and keep on ticking. You can hammer the back of this thing if you want to split some wood. It's no problem. I honestly just haven't used it much. You can see I've sharpened it. It doesn't hold the blade very well. I use it very infrequently, but it's a handy little blade. It's got a little saw thing you can stick in there, and I think it's from the Czech Republic. Got that from Corwin Arms. Martin over at Corwin Arms some years ago. Come on, get in there. Beautiful leather scabbard. What's wrong with the snap? This is not something I've carried really to any great extent. However, I did actually have this on my belt order, which is right here, and a buddy over at Drum Custom Knives saw that I had this on my hip, and he said, geez, no, I can do better than that. And so he sent me this knife, which has become my favorite knife, and you've seen this in a few of my other videos. This is Drum Custom Knives. This is 1080 carbon steel, very hard. Keeps an edge like you would not believe. You can shave the back of your hand if you want to. It's very sharp. But it's got a nice, beautiful, wide pummel. This is basically maple wood here. It's got the 303 head stamps and RC. you know, it's a custom knife, right? You can do this kind of stuff when you got somebody hand making you a knife. And what I like about this is that you can actually pierce or puncture into what, you know, whether it's a knee joint or you're trying to, it's basically a hunting knife. Trying to cut it apart or fillet slabs of meat off of hind quarter. No, you put that in the pommel of your hand. You can push nice and hard. You know, you're not going to get a blister in this area of your hand by using this knife over and over again over an extended period of time, and it keeps an edge beautifully. I just love this knife. He handmade the sheath here as well. Yeah, you know, there's another video with this thing. There's a reason why this knife is special. I'll get into that later. This here is a knife that I've been using for years. This is a British belt order, just in case you're wondering. I believe it's actually webbing. Nobody makes better webbing than the British, in my opinion. Their belt orders is absolutely fantastic. This is, last time I checked, they were no longer manufacturing this. This is called the Buck General, or the Model 120. This is the 120 uniform. I'm not quite sure what the U stands for. But I used to use this extensively for doing mountain pine beetle. I would, instead of using a hatchet to expose the gallery on the tree, I would just use this to shave off a strip of bark off the tree. I was out producing the guys using the hatchets, like, you know, 5 to 1 using this knife. And this knife has actually made me a lot of money in the forest industry. Been able to outproduce people for exposing beetle galleries for mountain pine beetle. What a great knife. And it holds a beautiful edge. It's, I believe it's 420 HC steel, which is basically a corrosion resistant type of stainless steel. But it still has the kind of the hardness or resistance of a chrome, of a carbon alloy steel. So, and good for big hands. If you got big hands, you can grab onto that pretty good. I've used the pommel quite a bit just for hammering stuff or trying to drive a nail into a piece of wood. The aluminum pommel and the guard on here is just great. I love this knife, and I've walked so many miles with this buck knife. Again, I think that many areas, because of the length of the blade, it's been made prohibited in so many different places, so they just stopped making them. I don't know if they're making them anymore. This here is another buck knife, basically the same kind of steel as I understand, with a gut hook on here. The reason why I bought this is because I wanted a blade with a bright kind of grippy handle on it. This is some kind of like a really grippy rubber that's on this knife, and I've carried this quite a bit in the field as well. And this here is a really nice feature, which I like, because, you know, if you're if you're doing some fairly vigorous work, or it's nighttime and it slips out of your hand, I like having a hole in the pommel of a knife just so I can do this, right? It's just a great little feature. However, I do believe these are, you know, certainly the sheath that you see here is made in China. Yeah, there we go. Sheath made in China. 2013. Dated. Sorry guys, I got a cold. It's good enough. This one here is pretty much the only big folder that I've had. I've been carrying this on my hip since I was 16 years old. It's called the Haida Ambassador. It's Japanese steel, 440 stainless, and manufactured they call it the Haida Ambassador, but it's manufactured by BST Basic Tools, and holds a fantastic edge. Beautiful rosewood grip on here. However, you know, when I was 16, I was a lot younger. It was a long time ago. So this has seen a lot of use. I mean, the amount of steel that's been ground off this thing over the time to keep a sharp blade is quite significant. This is like the 8th sheath that I've had on. This is a buck sheath that I bought, just a blank, and I, you know, oil it and you fit it to the knife. 16 years old, been carrying it on my hip. Fantastic knife. The fact that it survived this long. This here is just a modeling knife, but I mean, if you're gonna have something like in a first aid kit or something like that, where you, like, I don't know, I got a blister here, I should probably take care of that. I'm gonna do it right now. Watch me open myself up. There. Blister gone. Okay. Modeling knives are just an incredible thing. And there's an analogy here that I'm going to make between this blade, and this blade. This is a Wyoming knife, and I've dressed probably 15 different deer with this Wyoming knife. I don't know if you've seen these before. Essentially, a skinning blade here. Now you can, just for taking hide off or dressing the animal, and a gut hook here, which is just kind of like a zipper for opening the animal up. These are great. I love these. Some people just seem to keep cutting themselves on these. You know, they haven't figured it out. Some people just they stick their thumb way too high on this, and they end up notching the end of their thumb. Lots of people just, they get cut once and they never want to use them again. But you know, you just got to be smart about it and don't do that. But the analogy between this one, and this one is the way it's been ground. Now if you look at this, the way Brian over at Drum Custom Knives has done this is that he started the contour, the way he's ground this knife way up high. There's no bevel down here. That's one of the reasons why it keeps such a beautiful edge on this knife. I mean, this thing is almost surgical in nature, this knife. It's absolutely incredible. I love this. I've never owned a knife like this, actually, to be honest with you. It's fantastic. Whereas all of these others, especially the buck knives, they all have a fairly significant bevel right here. You can see that, right? So I have to sharpen these more often. The General 120, it's the same situation. It's got the same buck bevel right here. This knife here has an even bigger one, right? I mean, you can only get a knife like this so sharp because it's so wide. It tapers down. The angle of the taper is very, very significant. So they don't really keep a blade, does not stay as sharp. However, they can take a pounding, they can take a beating. And I would actually use, this is a blade I've used a lot. This is a Tramontina blade. These are made in Brazil. It's basically a spring steel blade, and they do rust, as you can see here. They do rust. This one here I've recontoured right at this point here for grabbing and pulling, so if I need to, I can make shavings for kindling and so on. But this machete is just a beautiful blade. I've had this for years. They do flex. You can see that they're made to flex for cutting through. I've used this so much in the bush, and I had to paint it because these don't come painted like this. I had to paint it myself because they do rust. They are a carbon steel, so they will rust. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've recontoured this section here, and it is very, very sharp. It does hold a decent blade. The steel isn't terribly hard, so the steel will gall, and it will, it will gall, and that's fine because this is an impact blade with a fair amount of a mass behind it. When you swing it, you got to be very careful, mind you. I will say that the sheath that it comes in kind of sucks. If you guys have any suggestions out there for a better sheath, the Tramontina sheath, it is very poor, very loose. You don't want that falling out. But essentially, there's only a couple of blades that I continue to use, and I'll probably sell these. I'll probably sell this one, although it does hold a beautiful edge. I do like this knife, but it's essentially been replaced by the Drum Custom knife. I'll never sell this one. This is a keeper. I mean, there's only one like it in the world. If you want a custom knife, go to Brian's Etsy site. I'll put the link down below. And seriously consider just this grind of the blade is, I'm a believer. It's, if you're a hunter, you want one of these knives, and he handmade this this sheath as well, which I love. It's fantastic, and I have this on my belt order. got my water, I got my bear mace. In here I've got GPS, the Vortex Solo RT 8x36. What a fantastic optical sight this is. It's got a range-finding reticle in it. Love it, love it. And of course we got illumination and a headlamp in here. That's the kind of stuff you want in a belt order. Doesn't matter if it's nighttime, you're still going to stay in production, you're still going to be able to continue with the mission. And in here, of course, we have a sharpener. You've got to keep your axes and your devices sharp. Piece of brass is a diamond rod. This is manufactured by Easy Lap Diamond. I've used this so many times. It just takes a licking and keeps on ticking, as it were, to borrow the analogy. Highly recommend you get something like this for your belt order. Anyway, so that's one belt order. There's water and a bunch of other tools, compass and whatnot. The other one, which is the British belt order here, in my opinion, the most comfortable belt order you can own. You know, basically your webbing belt, it's got this huge cushion around it. You know, you're going to get some salt stains in here because you're going to sweat when you're using this thing. This actually here is German World War II. It's triple clip pouches, and these are the SA80 mag pouches. Here you can put a water bottle or a med kit, and of course on here I also have a pouch for my pruning saw, which is great if you want to open the brisket on a moose or on a deer. Pruning saw is fantastic for that. Plus you can put shoulder straps on there if you need it, because you can put a fair amount of equipment in here, and that does get heavy after a while. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. Check out Drum Custom Knives. I think you'll be very, very happy with the product that he manufactures, and get him to make you a knife. I know you'll love it. Riflechair signing off. Hope you're all doing well, and as always, Maple Leaf up.